Welcome to the Bridge Church Midweek podcast. We exist to connect people with others and God. We hope this week's episode helps you do just that. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Bridge Church Midweek podcast. This is Pastor Blake. I'm the youth ministry and bridge group pastor, and today we are diving into one of our 7 pathways. If you're unfamiliar with pathways, you can go to bcpathways.life online and look at all 7 of the pathways. This is our discipleship method for anyone who attends Bridge Church. We say, man, if you want to grow deeper in your relationship with Christ, this is the path for you. There's 7 different things for you to focus on in your relationship with Christ and your walk with life. And I really encourage you, if you haven't looked at the content on there, there's different resources, different sermons that are attached that you can go back and look at. And so I encourage you, go check those out. But today I get to talk about one that I am particularly passionate about. It's one that comes more naturally to me. Not that prayer and fasting is something I dislike. I'm just not that good at it. Right? And so this one is something that I feel more comfortable with. I enjoy talking about, and that is our healthy community pathway. And so we're going to talk just for a few minutes about healthy community and what that looks like in your life, how to make that a priority, and what we are called to as Christ followers. And I really enjoy talking about healthy community because I think, man, I've been a part of some really great ones as far as friend groups and sports teams and small groups, and I've really enjoyed being a part of different communities, but I've also had moments in my life where I've been surrounded by people or even in a group and have felt really alone. And so I think it's important to talk about what makes it a healthy community, and we're going to answer 2 questions in the next few minutes. And the first one is this. It's simple. Why should you be a part of a community? And maybe you're a attender at Bridge Church, and maybe you're in a Bridge group already, and we'll talk about different ways that you can find community here at Bridge Church. Or maybe you go to a different church, and I would encourage you to look into what systems they have in place for you to plug in more deeply. And so we're going to answer why should you be part of community, and then what makes it a healthy community. And I think to answer the first question, we can look at Jesus' words to us. And the first, one of the things he says in John 13:34, Jesus talks about this new commandment. And he actually says, we are commanded to love one another. I give you a new thing. It's love one another. Simply love one another. And I think it's a really hard thing to love one another when we don't purposely put ourselves in opportunities to be around people. It's really hard to serve one another when we don't have opportunities to be around people. And I think what Jesus is saying is that, listen, you need to be around people. That you are not called to live this life alone. You are not called to try to manage everything alone. There's more scriptures that talk about how do we care for each other, how do we serve each other, making sure that we're there for each other when things are good and bad. And Jesus really calls us to a life of being together. And a Christianese word that kind of gets thrown around a lot, some halls are named after these, some rooms in churches are named after these, and maybe you've gone to one of these dinners, but a fellowship dinner, fellowship hall, those things. This word fellowship is a Christianese word, but it really just means to commune with one another and to participate in each other's lives. That's what the original meaning of that word fellowship is, to be a part of each lives, to participate in each other's lives in a meaningful way. Jesus talks about, man, we are one body, right? This is one body. And being a part of a body means being involved with each other's lives, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything going on. We are instructed that as a body of Christ, that we have to be together. The body isn't separated. And I think about moments in my life that I look back on and go, man, that was an awesome memory, an awesome moment. And most of the time, those have people in them. It's not typically just me, like, on my phone chilling, like, man, I remember that Instagram post I saw changed my life. That's not what it is, but you remember these moments with people. And even specifically, I think I enjoy golfing with people way more than golfing like by myself. And it could be that I just need to work on being alone, having some me time. But I like going with people because I really enjoy smoking a drive down the middle of the fairway, 300 yards, and turning and looking at that person and just being like, did you see that? that was the most awesome hit ever. I love doing that. Or I love just shanking one way over there and being like, you think we can find that? It's just so much more enjoyable for me to golf with people rather than being alone. And I understand that there's times in your life where you do want to be alone. All my introverts are like, I need to find me some alone time, but we are called to live with people. And it's so important that we understand that there's this call to community, that there's something we can experience about being in each other's lives, that it's a spiritual connection. Participating in each other's lives, being there for those highs and lows. Life is so much more enjoyable when there's people in it to celebrate with you and to support you through those highs and lows. And so I think the call to community is very clear. I think it's something that we need to make a priority in our life, not just to follow what we think is right, but to follow what Jesus says is right. That as we love one another each and every day, it's called to being a part of a community. So what makes a healthy community? And I think this is the challenging part, because I think we can do all the right things, be in the right systems, but I don't know if we're truly in a healthy system if there's not some level of vulnerability. And I think what can create a healthy community is really where there's vulnerability, authenticity with each other. We can go and we can have a ton of fun playing basketball together, but I'm probably not going to tell you about the things that I'm struggling with as I'm shooting free throws. Maybe that's what I'm struggling with, is my free throw shot. But not about the things that are going on deeper in my life. I'm not going to tell you about the things that you might need to hold me accountable for. And I think that's really the key to a healthy community, is being able to trust each other, being able to enjoy each other's company, but also just being able to be vulnerable with where we are at spiritually. And so and James 5 even talks about this concept in verse 16. It talks about, man, there's something to the power of confessing what's going on in your life to other people. That there's a freedom, there's a weight lifted in this. That I think is so important in developing this healthy community. And I think it gets incredibly messy. I think it gets incredibly tough sometimes, because it's hard to just build up that trust. You don't want to jump in first night. You're like, all right, let me tell you a list of every sin I've ever committed. I understand that this is a tough place to get to, because it takes a lot of time. And in our culture, in our day-to-day, that time is something that we really hold close to us. Time is something we don't like to give up, that there's a lot of things that demand our time, and a lot of really good things that demand our time, like family. Hopefully you have time dedicated to just being with your family. Hopefully you have time dedicated to being with Christ and being in that relationship with him. And I think something that is equally important is to make time for healthy community. Because until we say, I will purposely take time out of my schedule to put myself in community with people, we won't have that trust or that vulnerability. That it only comes through being around people and building those interactions, having those moments. Maybe it starts off as playing basketball, but I'm telling you, it builds to so much more once we develop that relationship with people. There's some questions that are on our BC Pathways website, bcpathway.life, that you can go and look at. There's also some awesome resources and a sermon that you can check out from Pastor Todd. But something I want you to think about as we just wrap up today is this. Frequency is vital to a healthy community. And I want you to ask yourself this question: do you make healthy community a priority during the week? Then in your week schedule, if you were to show me your schedule, could I point to and say, you purposely take time out to be a part of community? And I'm not sure what that community looks like for you. I know for me, we do a bridge group on Friday nights. There's a ton of bridge groups that meet all throughout the week. If you want to go to our website and look at all of the groups that offer, I would encourage you, plug into a group. Plug into a place where people know your name. People can get to know you more, not just your name or not just like your favorite color, but they get to know your life and that you live life with these people, and that you're able to find a spot to be vulnerable with these people. But do you make healthy community a priority during the week? And I think another way that you can actually join this community, join a healthy group, is by serving. And serving in different capacities, something that brings people so close together is serving, going on different missions trips or serving on Sundays in different capacities. Like, that is a team building thing. Our baseball team used to have to unload like 2 semis worth of pumpkins every year. Every year in October, our coach would volunteer us to go to like this pumpkin patch, and he'd be like, all right, everyone in the truck, let's just start throwing. We just start chucking pumpkins at each other. And like that day, we would take off of practice. I think we would even take off of school, but we understood the importance, our coaches did, of bringing us together by serving. And I'm telling you, it's so, so important if you can find a spot to plug in and serve, either on a Sunday, Wednesday, or in some other capacity, one of our serve groups that we have. It will bring a healthy community into your life. The second question I want you to think about today is being in community means being in messiness. Right? There's a lot of great aspects of community. We like talking about like, man, we're going to celebrate with you. We're going to throw a baby shower. We're going to cheer you on when it's your birthday. And like, it's going to be awesome. We'll have cupcakes. But then like, there's some really messy times in our life where maybe like a family member is sick, or maybe we're struggling with something, or maybe we just got laid off from a job and we just don't want to tell anybody. Like, we don't want anyone to know what's really going on in our lives. But being a part of a healthy community means allowing people to see our mess. And something that I think is effective is kind of flipping it around when we think about situations like this, because sometimes we think if I share my messiness, people are going to look at me differently. People are going to think of me or treat me differently, and I just want everything to stay the same. I want everything to stay at the surface level. But my question for you today is, how do you handle other people when they share their messiness with you? And then why do you think people would react differently than how you would? So I think a lot of times we build it up in our head that, man, if I say this, I don't even know if I can go back to that group. What will they think of me? And really, you wouldn't treat somebody like that. So why do you think other people would? And so I want you to think about that today. How do you handle other people when they share their messiness with you? And maybe that's something that we need to get better at, is being better cheerleaders in times where it's hard to cheer people on. Or times when they have a lot of stuff going on, you're just like, man, I got my own stuff. Like, leave me alone. Like, how do we handle other people's messiness? A reading that you can dive into today is just a perfect view of what biblical, healthy community looks like above and beyond. They were doing some crazy stuff in the book of Acts, chapter 2, verses 42 through 47. If you could, read that today. It's just 5 verses in Acts 2, 42 through 47, and ponder what that looks like in your life. Of course, it's a different time, it's a different culture, but what does this view of healthy community look like in your life? Finally, as we wrap up today, do you view healthy community as receiving benefits or as creating an environment? A part of anything that we do, we have to be the ones that initiate the change. If I want my bridge group to go deeper in our conversation, to be more vulnerable, it doesn't really help if I say, all right, you all need to tell me some deeper stuff now. You all need to tell me what you're struggling with. It really helps when I'm the one that starts it. And so if you are seeking that healthy community today, first, I would say find a bridge group to plug into. Find a serve team you can join. Second, be vulnerable. There's a lot of power in vulnerability, and I would encourage you to find someone that you can be vulnerable with today. Thank you so much for checking out the Bridge Church Midweek podcast. Have a great day.